Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Total Tutor Show. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. Please go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor Neil S. Haley. Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. Or also, I own a birth through college tutoring consulting company. You can call me at 412-523-0289 for a free phone evaluation of your child, or text me and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Really excited always into the month of February, and a lot of times I reflect on the entire network, especially a show like this, which is my bread and butter. I want to provide great tips for families and have great conversations that are family-oriented, and that's what the Total Tutor Show is all about. Well, tonight we have such a great lineup of great NFL players that are truly giving back to the community. I wanted to go to my expertise, which is birth through college education, and start a segment that I'll be having on the network every twice or three times a month, but we will go all the way through birth, all the way up to adulthood. This will be a lot of years of radio for me to do this, but let's kind of start out specifically in all the developmental areas. And I think the best way to look at developmentally is the brain first. And let me give you an example why we should look at the brain. The brain is something that is so amazing. To kind of scientifically look at a baby and see how that baby interacts, how that baby is able to move, how that baby is able to walk and talk and do all those things, and why they decide to do what they do. And when we see our children later on and we're saying, why are they thinking this way? What makes them tick? Well, that's the science of cognitive ability. It's seeing how specifically it develops, and it's a quite interesting situation. So let's go to that first and jump to that, and we'll jump further ahead. Again, you can check out on my YouTube page many of the different television interviews I've been doing with my co-host Jarrett, but I wanted to go on this route as something like, one or two segments sometimes, not as a filler, but a way to really jumpstart the show. And we're really excited about these other stations out there that are playing individual podcasts, so I wanted to be part of that process. So let's go right to it. Basically, the importance of your child before they're born. They think, they feel, they hear, they are able to understand, and it's so key that you provide a very peaceful environment for them. And this helps increase their cognitive ability amazingly. And let me kind of go into specifics. Your wife is pregnant. You want to make sure that you're talking to the baby. And if you don't have time to talk to the womb all day, you could just basically know when you're talking to your wife and say nice things and be peaceful and bring out the best in you when you're doing this. And it's so key. And we one of the research people say that playing music in the womb is not an important thing. It's something like, you don't play the baby Einstein stuff or the Bach or Beethoven or whatever's involved out there, because it really doesn't make a difference. Well, honestly, it does. And if you have the opportunity for your wife to listen to music throughout, to feed the baby knowledge, that's one of the major things. Talking to them is so key, and reading to them, doing whatever you can do to engage that person, even though you can't engage them, so that they're ready when they're born. And, the sleepless nights that mom might have, what a perfect opportunity to pull out Green Eggs and Ham and read it, or some other certain book and read it, and talk to them. And if you don't know if it's a boy or a girl, just talk about the dreams, their hopes, their aspirations. It's going to make that baby, before it's born, feel so peaceful when it finally comes to the earth. I remember what Jarrett talked about. There was how that baby's afraid, how that baby was so used to being in mom's womb, and then the baby's out now and feels in this dark, cold place, and they want to feel loved, and they don't feel it. They're like, this is so much safer being in my mom's womb. And that's where you see a lot of the reactions from day one, the crying, the specific situations when that child's born. So basically, child's born. One of the exciting things I have been blessed about is which I really think is really cool, is even though my wife's had 5 C-sections, I'm the first to hold each child. I'm the first one that gets to talk to that child. And I feel that has a huge amount of bonding that develops very early for myself. A lot of husbands sometimes, forget about how important it is to bond with their child and to really understand their child. Oh, that's mom's job. That's something mom should do. No, it shouldn't be. So right at the beginning, I'm talking peaceful. I'm saying, what a great, oh, you look so cute. And oh my gosh, there are your arms and ears and mouth and nose. Wow. I'm really praising the baby, telling the baby how much I love them, providing that situation. Another thing is that the reactions that I have or mom has, the baby doesn't need to see it a lot. It's something like, let bygones be bygones in so many aspects and say, hey, allow the baby to be the baby. And try to be as peaceful as can be and not to get upset and angry. So key. All right, so we jump from that process to all the different things cognitively that are developing in their brains. Thinking of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and specific things that a child is showing their true brain ability and thought process through diaper changes, through sleep, through eating. All of these areas are needs, and that's how they react at an early age, especially. They can't talk at 2 weeks old, but they sure as heck can really show their displeasure and cry when they're upset. And then in about 5 to 6 weeks, they could coo because of how much they feel at peace. So it's key. It's key as a parent to be peaceful. It's key for a parent to be peaceful as much as possible throughout the day in any way, shape possible. And through that peace comes safety, comes love, nurturing, well-being. All these things come to play when you're peaceful. So that's the key. Every one of the little strategies, teaching cognitive at that age, they can't answer questions or different things. Talk to them. If you're not talking to your baby, anytime you have an opportunity to engage him or her, you're making a huge mistake. You're missing that opportunity, that bond, that opportunity to see things. So cognitively, as I talked about in my show regarding behavior, your son or daughter as a baby has a notebook and is taking notes and looking at and saying, this is how my dad reacts. This is how my mom reacts. This is how my siblings react. But they're not going to be surprised very early. They're already going to have that notebook ready to go because when they're born, they know what was going on when they were in that deep, dark place. They heard the screaming at times. They heard the siblings complaining and crying and moaning or thanking. So none of it's a surprise to them. There's no surprise in the process. So going through all the different things, you could count to them. You could say ABCs. You can sing certain songs. All you're doing, if you could create that loving environment, that the ability for that brain to develop is going to be amazing. I think Jarrett was talking about when it's not a peaceful home, how it's difficult for the child to eat. It's difficult for the child to do other certain techniques. And that really shocked me to know that. It really did. So we go through the process of changing diapers, feeding the baby, we're talking, we're interacting. So about 2 to 3 months, you're either going to you've already gotten the reaction of the screaming and crying, I don't like what's going on. But now you're going to get some validation, some smiles, some cooing. And ways that we can kind of develop that is for us to be always cheerful. If we could stay cheerful always as a parent, life will be easy. I'm thinking of the Baker, Next Baker, not the reality television show, but just a kid's show about living the simple life. What we want to do is we want to make our home not a complex place, a place where that child can feel safe, that child can feel loved, and that child can feel peace. There's been many times where I've kind of bit my tongue instead of getting in a big argument with my wife or kids when I'm very frustrated, because I know how important when those kids are watching, how they model and look at those specific things. That's just for the thought about the happy and cheerfulness involved in a family. And amazingly enough, our segment's almost over. So we go through this process. They start cooing, they start answering the telephone, they turn on the TV. I'm just kidding you, but really at this age that they're getting to 2, they're starting to get into things. And we talked about on the TV show the importance of using blocks, shape sorters, stacker, and that's about 2. So it's very interesting about from 1 week old to 18 months. They're playing a little bit, but really the cognitive ability is based on their needs. It's based on the feeding, eating, clothing. All those areas is where they're really looking at specifically doing. There's not anything else. But then at about 18 months to 2 years, toys develop, and you have a lot of ability to teach a lot more of those cognitive developmental areas. For example, the importance of a toy not to have all those bells and whistles and all that different jazz, that's key. You don't want it to have its bells and whistles and all that. You want that child to interact with that toy. You want the parents to interact back and forth with that toy and to create objectives and learning objectives. For the last thing I want to go to throughout all this time, you don't do this all day. You don't drive that baby nuts by saying, oh my gosh, mom's teaching me for 5 hours. I'm tired. Do it for about an hour. You can split it up 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes here, and your child's going to develop the way they need to develop. So that was my segment. Neil Haley, the Total Tutor. We're taking you from birth to adulthood in all areas of life, and we're just kind of starting the process with the womb to the baby to the problems. We're going to talk about sleeping and all these different things the next time I have another podcast, so stay tuned. You can go to my website again, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, and we're going to have a really great show. Rashid Davis will be on the program, and Chris Draft. You're listening to the Total Tutor Show on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.